Yeah, good morning, everyone. I think IoT, Internet of Things, has become it's not just a buzzword, but it's become really important and central to the future. We were supposed to have one of our portfolio companies, Grey Orange Robotics, that couldn't make it, which is also in the similar space. And it's wonderful. We have a couple of co-panelists. So just to get started, I thought what would be great is if you could just start from that side. If you could just briefly introduce what your company does, and what propelled you all into this space. What was that first user pain point or customer pain point related to the Internet of Things that got you to seriously start thinking about this and start a company around this very important idea?
Sure. We started this company last year, January, with a very clear focus on developing products for IoT. That focus, that's where we coined the company name also as Connected Innovation. So the sole focus of the company is to develop products which can make things to get connected to internet. So one of the first products which we have already launched last year in crowdfunding is Gecko, which is an Internet of Things enabler. It's a very versatile product. Apart from being a lost and found, tracking, motion detection, a lot of other features which it has, it actually enables others to use it as an Internet of Things enabler. So there are a lot of companies who have come forward and signing up with us where they are using Gecko, and we have an SDK. Using that platform, they are signing up with us to come out with their own products based on our platform. My company name is Connovate Technology Private Limited.
Hi everyone, I'm Abhishek Latte, CEO of SenseGiz. My company is in the wearable tech industry. As you might all know, wearable tech is like at the forefront of IoT, because a lot of Internet of Things based products could be controlled by something that you're wearing on your body, as a smartwatch, as a smart band, or any activity tracker. So our primary product is a wearable tech product which can do multiple things, like tracking fitness and sleep data, monitoring safety, and also allow you to control other objects using gestures. So that's one aspect where Internet of Things comes in. For example, you could make gestures and control your lighting, for example, which would be an application of IoT. Then another of our primary objectives is to track if a person has a fall or a crash and inform their primary caregivers or friends, family. So which is all again going through the internet. So in multiple ways, our products are based on IoT.
Actually, Vinay, before you go, one of the things in your intro, especially for the audience, this term is not as well known. After your intro, if you could even just define the term, help define the term for the audience. So, what does it encompass? What is IoT really, and what is it?
Absolutely. So maybe let me start with that. It probably makes a lot of sense. Hi, this is Vinay Nathan. I'm co-founder of a company called Altizon. See, the whole concept of IoT, let's look at it this way. I think the best analogy that at least I relate to is that, say, a century ago, a company like IBM got founded by combining the skills of tabulating, recording, and computing. And these were three different business lines, three different businesses, the way the world looked at it. And then, IBM got formed kind of with the central idea that you need to merge a lot of these things together to get value to enterprises. IoT is very similar in the sense that it merges everything from sensing technologies, sensors, sensor networks, to computing at the edge, to on, say, the platform side of the picture, the ability to manage all these devices, do the data ingestion at, at scale in a diverse, heterogeneous manner, which includes all the things that we are aware of in terms of, a device cloud, a big data stack, and in some senses also abstract away all this complexity from the application layer and be able to essentially decouple everything that you collect from the physical world of sensors and devices from the application layer associated with the consumption of all of that data, right, or insights from that data. So what really interests or excites, I'm sure, all of us in the IoT space is that this is that one time in, a long time in the enterprise space as well as in consumers, where you have the ability to give all of these together on one product offering or platform offering at a price point with diverse go-to-markets possible and things like that, right? So this is at least how I look at it. There are many ways in which you can look at this whole wave, if you will. But in a nutshell, it's about this multidisciplinary 7 or 8 disciplines coming together and being in a position to plug and play each one of these layers and create interesting products and go-to-markets, right? So from an entrepreneur's perspective, at least, that's been the most exciting. Coming to Altizon itself, we are a pure play platform player in the Internet of Things space. We build sensor data appliances for the manufacturing industry today, which allows tier 1, 2, 3 suppliers of the larger Tata, Cummins, Bajajas of the world to get their assembly lines connected, drive data related to operational efficiency, and give SaaS applications back to them, in terms of how they can improve their operational efficiency and things like that. So that's our first go-to-market, and as we do that, we have built out a core platform that can hopefully go across multiple verticals.
Very helpful, thanks. So what the relevance of IoT to Blume is 75, so we are a $25 million early stage venture capital fund, and about 75% of our companies are in internet, mobile, SaaS, but 25% are what we call core tech or alternative tech, and GOR, Grey Orange Robotics is one of them. And what is interesting is they have built a butler and sorter system that a lot of the e-com and logistics companies are using. So in a sense, it's AI meets robotics, and a very, very interesting space. So going into sort of the next point, for so just curious, how many entrepreneurs in the room? If you could just show of hands. Okay, so it's at least half, if not more. So one of the first questions when you meet a VC is, tell us about the market size, right? How big is it? So if we get into that, if you all could talk a bit about, is this, are we looking at India? Are we looking at global? And you do that in a sequence, or are some of you actually setting up, outside India itself and going after global user bases from day one?
So with respect to our company, our products are something that could be sold globally right from the start, because we make wearable tech products which can get an easy traction in developed markets where there is good knowledge about wearable tech products, compared to India, where still people need to be educated before they know how wearable tech products could be used, how Internet of Things could impact them in day-to-day life. So at least as far as our company is concerned, we are looking at a globalized approach rather than just India first.
Yeah, Internet of Things market size is kind of overestimated to start with, but underestimated on a long term. In the sense, we, not only in India, globally, we are underprepared to embrace Internet of Things. There's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of other ecosystem has to fall in place for the Internet of Things to get started. But this is the right time to get started into Internet of Things. 3 years, 5 years down the line, the story is going to be totally different. What we are estimating, Cisco is talking about 50 billion devices out there. They are talking about a 99-cent IPv6 device getting into almost everything we talk about. With that kind of adaptation falling in place, Internet of Things is going to be huge. It's we like it or not, there are a lot of apprehensions about it in terms of safety, security, and all those aspects. Just like Internet, we have to deal with all of that, and the size of the market is humongous. But it's only that it's not going to be immediate. It's going to be 2 years, 3 years down the line is when it's going to pick up.
So yeah, I mean, while broadly I agree with all the comments made on this point, at least from our perspective, we are really looking at the enterprise end of the segment, and in that case, one advantage that we get is the the customer context, if you look at a consumer kind of a play in this area, it becomes very heterogeneous, right? You don't know where your product is going to go, and because there are physical devices concerned and all, the problem set becomes very big, and you need to it's a big problem to solve, obviously, that these guys are going after, right? In the enterprise segment, the reason we went after that in some senses was, of course, our background, but beyond that, the market, the way we looked at it, some of at least the constraints can be applied. There is an environment that you can manage as you grow up, and the other advantage was then we could do India first and then look at taking it global. So the market segment, again, as was mentioned, right, you can pick any number and that is it, be it with a B or a T at the end. It's a huge market. The question is how we walk that path. Definitely there is, in at least our opinion, and India first along with a global immediate next step that's possible.
So let's relate this back to the sort of startups, because startups are at least early stage companies, because many of them are there from the audience. If we talk about capital efficiency, one of the differences in this model is that you also have a hardware component. You've got production and manufacturing versus most of if you look at WhatsApp, for example, very, very different business models. How do you balance that, and how do you manage that in a early sort of bootstrap stage when you've got to layer manufacturing hardware on top of this?
Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, Internet of Things has a hardware element into it, and that's one of the hindrance or one of the hurdles which we have to overcome in order to embrace Internet of Things. The cost of every device, because we are talking about billions or trillions of devices, being there by 2020. In that case, the cost of every device getting a sensor data and being connected to internet, that has to be trivial. That has to be in cents. Only then it makes sense. And it's globally it's a big challenge. At the same time, it poses a bigger challenge being in India, to be frank. We don't have the right kind of ecosystem in India to come out with hardware products. We still rely on China to a great extent, and it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. We need to understand our strengths and weaknesses, and we need to rely upon right partners. I think the building the right ecosystem, signing up with the right partners and lead customers is going to be the key thing.
So that's one of the challenges for Internet of Things, because it involves hardware, and hardware traditionally, at least in India, is a pretty neglected field, because if you look at most of the startups coming from India, almost 80–85% would be in the software field. What happens in hardware is you have to go through multiple iterations. If you're building a software product, you can just get one platform, make iterations, keep on doing it. But with hardware, you've got to make one prototype, reiterate, make new prototypes, make new tooling. So when you are developing a new product, that can be a bit of a capital challenge. When you're moving to mass production, you've got to pay your suppliers in advance because you're a startup and they don't trust how long you're going to last. That's the reality. So in that sense, for Internet of Things, it is completely dependent on hardware at one end. So in that sense, capital requirement is much, much more than compared to what a software startup would require. But at the same time, IoT products have to interface with software. So either be it smartphone apps or any computers. So that's another challenge wherein you integrate your hardware and get them talking to relevant software to put together an end application. So overall, Internet of Things is slightly different than what conventional consumer electronic products do.
So I guess the only things I have to add to what was said was, just from a data point perspective, it took us 6 to 9 months to nail, after many iterations, the lead time, cycle time of the kind of product and the hardware that we could take to market. And so that, as it's a process. You have to iterate. You have to find a way in which you are funded for being able to do all of that. So that's at least a data point from our perspective. The other big challenge is compliances. Really. So every tax law that applies to embedded software, there isn't that much know-how out there. So having a good support on that front and having advice on that front is critical. Otherwise, you'll just be spending time, at least in LBT and all those other things that happen in and around Pune, right? So that's another key area that you need to plan for. Otherwise, it'll just suck up your bandwidth in no time.
So very helpful. Just moving on to two different themes I want to just touch on. One is mobile, and the other is just competing globally. So if you look at the first, I guess for this panel we should have all showed up, wearing Google Glass and Jawbones and Fitbits on our thing. But the fact is that mobile is at the center of all of it, right? You've got sensors between all the wearable devices going back. Can we talk a bit about India's sort of mobile revolution? Look at the growth of smartphones and look at 3G and look at broadband coming up, and what are the implications for IoT with regards to that sort of explosion in mobile growth in India? Any of you take it, and even globally, just mobile, the intersection.
Yeah. So with mobile, India has truly had a very nice boom period for the last 5 to 7 years. But when you come back to Internet of Things, there are some drawbacks. Like Internet of Things relies on technologies like Bluetooth Low Energy or say NFC, which is not present in all budget smartphones. So for example, there's no IoT product which can work without Wi-Fi or Bluetooth Low Energy. And these technologies only come in high-end phones like the Apple phones or the high-end Samsung phones. So if you look at the overall market in India, I would say only 5 to 10% of the phones in India are equipped to be used as IoT products.
Yeah, just to add to it, we had an experience already. We went on crowdfunding for Gecko. We were expecting at least 20 to 30% customers coming from India. To our surprise, it was just less than 5%. Less than 5% customers actually placed on that. 95% is global, which is a very clear indication that in India, one, people may not understand IoT very clearly and do not see the value in it. Two, the readiness is not there. So we are also trying to circumvent this problem in a different way. We are coming out with another product which is called a gateway. It's a Gecko gateway, which you install it in your home, by which you avoid the necessity of a high-end smartphones at home. So you can still install your Internet of Things at home. With this gateway, you can use your budget smartphones, low-end Android phones and other phones, and still be, able to use the Internet of Things. So that's one via media we have found. So I think that's going to be the key solution for Indian market.
So in our context on the enterprise side, at least we have been able to be fortunate because we build the devices ourselves and that goes to market. So we are able to plug and play all these dongles, and so in a sense for us it has been a boon for the deployment side, because what happens is, I don't have to rely even on the customer's network when I go in. I walk in, dropship, put the device there, say, I'm connected to your machine, this is the dashboard, go and see it. And the other wow factor for them is that most of the owners and the management layer can see it on their mobile phones. So that becomes a big, plus factor for them. So it's a different sliver. So you have to be creative in some senses, at least on the enterprise side. We are relying on a lower tech. We are really relying on the fact that there's probably a data network somewhere close by that we can ride off. In the consumer side, I totally agree with every comment that is made because it's a lot more complicated there.
So let's talk about competing globally. In our own case, in Blume's case, if you look at Grey Orange Robotics, they're getting a tremendous traction here from large e-commerce companies. But we found that the real demand, the exponential demand is outside. Now when it's a catch-22, you go outside, there's also competition. So they're seeing competition from Europe, from Germany, from the Far East. So to that point, two questions. One is there a hub for IoT in the sense, is it by de facto Silicon Valley or other regions of the world coming up? And the second is, what broadly, what is India's competitive advantage? I mean, is it low cost? Is it talent? And how is India on the IoT map? If you could just talk about those two things.
In terms of potential, India has great potential, surely. If we are probably the second largest mobile population in the world, which is a clear indication that we have the potential. It's only that we need to bring out a technology which is viable at very low cost and be able to work with the low-end mobile phones. If we can come out with that kind of technology, definitely India has a great potential.
Well, one advantage that India has is even when we say like only 10% of the population has devices which can use IoT products, it still means a huge number, because 10% for India's population is still a very large number. So in that sense, India as a market definitely exists, but with the Indian market, we need to educate the users on what IoT is, what IoT products can do, before they can really start using them. Because what usually happens is the West takes up a technology and India follows suit 2-3 years down the line. But India has some competitive advantages, like you can get a product developed for much lower cost. For example, if we had started our company in Silicon Valley, we would have spent 10 times of what we did setting up in India. So there are a few competitive advantages, but there are some challenges as well.
Yeah, I think the only points I would add again would be around the layers that I work with. As was rightly pointed out, it would take 10x, 12x what we can accomplish here, and the skill set engineering footprint exists for this area because it's closer to infrastructure. Yes, there is a domain component involved and things like that, but because the bulk of what you need to build as a product or platform is going to ride on an infrastructure kind of a play, every skill set that you need is available here as good as it is available anywhere else. So that is a big advantage, and that's one opportunity for every entrepreneur in this room to look at, because you pick any domain, any vertical, the good part is IoT applies to most of them. So you are really focused on looking this use case I'm going to solve with this device, this app combination, and there's like a plethora of plays possible, and it's a great way for you to probably work it out in India first and then look at a global market. I would agree with some comments that were mentioned earlier also, in the sense that India as a market by itself for everything, obviously the Western markets are going to be more lucrative and all of that. So it's a path, but India allows you to be creative and do your first versions and go to market, get some real feedback, test things out, classical, right? So all those advantages exist. Global hubs, going back to the question that you were talking, at least there are a bunch of these maker fairs, hardware accelerators that are out there globally. Boston and Bay Area kind of major hubs. And outside Europe, it's Germany, if I'm correct, and I'm sure everybody has their own experiences, but Germany and some in Japan. So again, even globally, IoT from a business model perspective and all of that is still evolving. So there isn't like this one major hub that you need to be in, but these are the ones that have hardware accelerators and a lot of these orgs like Maker Faire and all of that happen, that propel this industry.
So let's talk about innovation and IP a little bit here. If you look at WhatsApp, for example, Shrija was talking about it. 450 million users with that traction. Whether or not you have IP doesn't, it's immaterial. If you look at e-com, for example, and look at the growth rates that Flipkart and the others are clocking, it's all about execution. Can we talk about a couple of examples, either from your own companies here? But how important is IP? How is it getting created? How is it being valued? Because that is a substantial, if let's say there's a acquisition exit, all of us have to think about that. That's going to be a huge premium for that. So let's just talk a bit about creating and valuing the IP for IoT.
Sure. In case of Internet of Things, though we talk about hardware as the key element, the IP doesn't belong to really the hardware part of it. The IP belongs to the platform in how do you acquire customers and how do you build a customer base. What happened in case of WhatsApp is going to be exactly the same value proposition in case of IoT solutions also. That the more the number of users you have, more the value you are going to get. So the key thing is a cloud solution, your app, user experience, what you bring it. That's going to be the key. The hardware is only an enabler in IoT. So I think in our case, the key thing, what we look at is the IP on the cloud side, IP on the app side. That's going to be more valuable than the hardware. The hardware today, I'm building it, SenseGiz is there, few other are there. There are a lot of people who have almost the same hardware, same platform, which is tweaked here and there a bit and being used. So hardware is not the key. The key IP lies in how do you acquire customers, how do you build the user experience.
Well, IP can still be a very key defensive asset for the company, because if you have quite substantial IP assets, you can be a potential acquisition target. You can also spin out your technology and license it to people. With our company, that's one thing that we have been looking at, because we have some IP for our fall and crash detection system. So that's one example how if you have an IP, people will be interested in trying to integrate your technology in their products. So that can be an additional revenue generator apart from your primary products. So in that sense, IP can be useful if you're trying to raise money. Investors ask if you have any IP. So in that sense as well, IP can be useful. But really, you need to have user base. You need to have happy users. You need to have a good brand image as well to go along with your intellectual property. Otherwise, you don't have much of a standing.
So yeah, I think from a business model perspective, very much like the WhatsApp use case as was said, the direct metric here is number of devices connected. So your worth in some senses, that is a great way to look at it. The other way is, of course, the number of events that you are capturing and processing on your platform. The third metric that you can look at, when you look at customer acquisition and things like that, one key aspect is the ease of use is what is going to use some means to get customers onto your platform, but what is going to keep them on the platform is not the device as was stated, but the quality of the analytics. So be it, what are you doing for consumer insight? What are you doing for operational efficiency with respect to whatever is deployed out there, the context? All those layers of analytics are what will help you keep and retain and kind of continue to grow that customer base and connected device connectivity. So the IP really is on that side of the piece, and everything else is like an enabler as was stated.
So let's do one more sort of panel topic before we open up for questions. Let's start from this side. Would love your thoughts. Let's take a good example like Google Glass. Each of your thoughts on the viability, on the user adoption. Is it only Western markets or India? How is that going to take off? I think it'll be a great example to dissect and just wearable technology. But let's think about Google Glass, as one example.
So I think it's a classical Western economy and model-driven kind of a product. The value proposition for that, especially when you are trying to go mass market, it has to be. So pricing is $1,500, right? Yeah, exactly. So the point is, there is no way it can, be a mass market device in a developed economy. If at all, it will be an early adopter driven market, even in an advanced economy like the US. So specialized skills is where I see a lot of these things, being used, where there are there are workers that need to do a particular set of tasks and need information on that context right in front of them right now. So HMI driven devices, instead of that, you move to a more wearable computing kind of a platform. I do expect all of this to happen inevitably. It's a question of, how quickly they are able to drive down some of these costs. The moment they get it to like a $500 level, it will definitely boom, because then you're truly enabling productivity on especially workforce layer type of people, if you're giving them context right out in front of their eyes.
Well, Google Glass as a concept has a lot of pros and cons. For example, in terms of pros, you can record all the time, you can do many things with it, you can be connected to your email, this and that. But in terms of the cons, there are issues like, for example, I wear glasses, so I would not mind wearing Google Glass, but Vinay or Sanjay here who do not wear glasses on a day-to-day level would kind of find it a bit of a challenge to wear Google Glass all the time. So that's one area, and privacy with Google Glass can be a tricky issue because there have already been, I think, some cities which have banned Google Glass when you're driving, and if you're in theaters, people might record the movies. So in that sense, Google Glass can evoke both type of reactions. It could be positive reaction or a negative reaction. So apart from just devices like Google Glass which you wear on your face, I think wearable devices which you wear on your wrist or part of your clothing are going to be more common, like 3-4 years down the line. We would see at an event like this, we would have almost 50-60% of the audience wearing one or the other form of wearable tech device.
So actually, since you mentioned glasses, right, I wear contact lenses, and the other Google product that came out, which was I'm sure that I'll wear that, right, if that does everything that it's proposed to do, right? So in some senses, in addition to Google Glass, that kind of a product, I think probably has a more immediate market for jumping.
Yeah, Google Glass is, very interesting. It's a kind of still a fiction for me. Yeah, probably it's too early to the market. Probably 5 years or 3 years down the line, it might be a commodity. Everybody would don't mind using it. Definitely, whenever you bring in some technology which is and trying to create a new market, there is going to be a friction, and that's what Google Glass is facing today. Price point is not going to be a real issue because Apple has sold so many products with such a high price point. But the user experience is what is making the difference, and that is where Apple has been able to convince and sell the product, and that's what is still lacking in Google Glass. And maybe 3 years down the line, yes, it's a right product. Today, it's still a fiction.
Yeah, I personally think price is important in the sense I've worn it, but I've not bought it, right? Yeah. So it's a good. So we're out of time. I just wanted to thank the audience and the co-panelists for a very interesting discussion, and then you can grab them later in a break.